let's start then with a roll call. Is Amanda going to be joining us?
It'll be Shelby.
This is Shelby. I'm on the call for Amanda today.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going to go ahead. Yeah,
Welcome.
I'll do the roll for you guys.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, if you could do that, please.
Carol Augsburger,
Yes.
Marshall Belleville, Stuart Burlocker,
Yes, I'm here.
Jackson Bird,
Present.
Bridget McGill, Michael Stevenson,
Present.
Okay.
and then we have Kevin is staff on the call, and Jill Blake is a member of the public on the call.
Okay. We've been presented with the minutes of our last in face-to-face meeting, which was in March of 20, believe it or not. And so I'm wondering if there's any changes or questions you have about it. And if not, I will entertain a motion for them to be approved.
I move that we accept the minutes.
I will second.
Stuart is first and Michael is second. Okay, and is there any discussion? I'd like to, Kevin, ask just a couple of questions about it, just to kind of bring me back to date. There was a comment about the Savannah Greens Homeowners Association would be willing to help with pruning, maintenance, watering, but not planting. Was there any follow-up on that? And where are they located? Are they someone in our underserved areas that we might want to work with?
It is the furthest east subdivision on Florida Avenue, just east of Kinch to the city limits. And it runs from Florida north to Washington.
So that's where it is, but what's the answer to why did we contact with them?
Trying to think of her name was Julie. I contacted her and she was the only one she's the homeowner association president. She was kind of getting strung out on being the only one kind of doing anything. So it kind of fell off there as to asking her for doing anything on her own. So it was kind of still in the water from the last I talked to her.
I see. Okay, well, that kind of relates to the report we'll get later from Scott, because her area might fall into that category of fitting his proposal.
Yeah.
Okay. And another question is, the Rotary Club has had a funding initiative in the past, and the funds were saved until you needed to use them. I'm wondering, have they been used? Are there more still available? What's the quantity of money in that pot?
We received another $5,000 donation last summerish. We used some of the money in fall for the fall planting.
Right.
We still have some funds left over for this spring to use if we can find the available sites.
And my other question is, can more money still be put into that fund? Is it an open fund all the time? Or is this a closed campaign on their part?
It could be, it's a fund that can always be added to. It goes into the Legacy Tree Fund, actually, and we can pull out of it for legacy tree issues or hardware or new tree planting. It's with the East Central Illinois Commerce Commission or Commerce funding. I can't remember the exact name of it. I can get that for you though.
I would like to know who you're supposed to contact if you wanted to donate funds.
I'll get that institute name to you and let you know.
All right, thank you. Welcome, Jackson and Shelby. Can you make a note that Jackson has joined us? Oh, he just changed his name. See,
But
Sorry-
Bridget,
Sorry about that.
but Bridget
join
did
us.
join us, yes.
Yeah, so make a note, Shelby, that Bridget joined us. Welcome, Bridget. Bridget, you may need to undo your muting and video. Can you hear us, Bridget?
I can hear you.
And in your lower left screen, hit on the microphone.
Start video.
I'm getting it.
And stop, yeah. And then you'll come on. There you go.
Ta-da, there we go.
Okay, good. Glad to see you're here.
Hello.
Hi.
We just were in the middle of approving the minutes from March 20th.
Mhm.
And the last question I guess I have, Kevin, is you had contacted the Tennessee nurseries for a source of new trees. Did they in the end contribute at all to replantings in this past year, or they never got into the bidding?
They never got into the bidding. I did
Yep.
get a Cincinnati, Ohio nursery that is looking to bid this spring.
Okay. Is it worth a follow-up with the Tennessee people?
I sent out, our bids just opened up today. I did send out a couple reminders that our bids are coming up. So
Uh-huh.
they should have got the information.
Yeah,
I talked to a representative from J.F. Schmidt out in Oregon. They're a tree supplier to nurseries. And he gave me some guidelines for contacting nurseries, and they said the southern nurseries are just falling by the wayside. There's none that are really sticking with it and none developing.
okay. All right, so everyone's had a chance to see the minutes from March 20, 2020. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All those who oppose? Oh,
I think we had to do a roll call on a Zoom meeting.
all right, Shelby, if you could do a roll call, please.
Carol Augsburger,
Approve.
Stuart Berlocker,
Approve.
Jackson Bird,
Approve.
Bridget McGill,
Approve.
Michael Stevenson,
Approve.
all right, that motion carried.
All right, the motion carried unanimously. We'll move on to item number 3 on the agenda, and I believe there is no one present, but did anyone contact you with public input, Michael? I mean, Kevin?
I believe we have a couple calls on waiting.
Okay,
Yeah, so we do have Jill Blake, a member of the public on. Jill, I don't know if you wanted to address the commission or not, but you can unmute at this time to do so. And to unmute, it's just in the lower left-hand corner. There's a little microphone that you can mute and unmute. We'll give her a couple seconds here, and it may be that she's just tuning in to listen. Okay, and Jill was the only member of the public that's currently on the call.
okay. Well, if she ever does unmute, maybe you can alert us to that.
Will do.
Thank you. All right, there being no public input. We're moving on to number 4, former business. And we had suggested that maybe one of the reasons people are reluctant to accept and or endorse and take care of new trees is they're not knowledgeable about the benefits. And so we charged Kevin with looking for possible already developed pamphlets, brochures that outline them. So he forwarded 2 of those to us. One is called Values and the other one is called Benefits. And he got them from the International Society of Arborists.
Arboricultural, yes.
Yeah. I had a chance to read both of them. I thought if you had to have a choice, I would certainly use the benefits rather than the value. I don't think these people in these underserved areas are going to be into thinking about getting a value estimate and so that they can get reimbursed by the IRS, et cetera. I thought the benefits was what we were really thinking more of when we asked you to look for that kind of information. Any other input that people have?
How will that be disseminated? Is it going to be on a website or just a hardcover, pamphlet?
I've got a stack of pamphlets. I'm going to put them at of course, the Public Works front desk, which nobody's allowed to come in just yet, but there will be some there. Some new possible planting sites. I can mail them out with potential planting sites. If we develop a area that we want to try to mass plant, try to get in, people wanting to plant trees, I can send it with them addresses also.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly the library. We could probably put some at the library. City buildings.
Kevin, just a suggestion that one time the ISA used to give away a brochure stand for those little brochures. I had a couple of those when I was city forester of Bismarck, and like you mentioned, maybe having communicating with the staff at the library to see if they would be willing to put one of those brochure racks there, and having one at Public Works. The ISA, they do have a whole series of those brochures. It's been a while since I had to deal with that, but I believe you could purchase them, and I believe they come in like either 50 or 100 per packet, and they cover everything from values of trees to planting trees to pruning trees, pruning mature trees, a whole gamut of things. And if the city has a budget for information like that, it might be worth it to invest in getting a couple of those brochure racks and putting the more pertinent ones to the public, like planting and pruning young trees and value and benefit of trees.
Okay.
Jackson, are those like freestanding floor units or are they attached to a wall?
The ones that the ISA gave out for free were freestanding ones, kind of cheapy cardboard brochure racks. If you wanted to invest a few dollars into it, I thought they had like an acrylic type one that you could attach to a wall or put on like an information desk. But if I remember correctly, the cardboard one was free, and you definitely got what you paid for on that. So the acrylic ones were more sturdy and durable.
Because the library's got a whole wall of brochure slots just to the right of the circulation desk, the main adult circulation desk as you're facing it. And I know they rotate, and I've seen some of the tree brochures in there before. So they may have an empty slot for us without having to come up with our own display system.
That may be their preference as well.
Right, because if they've got something on the floor, it gets knocked down, and and I know they don't like to put holes in the walls, so.
Yeah, these are pretty slick too. They probably slide and really go everywhere if they did hit the ground.
Is it, Kevin, is it a one page with front and back, or is it 2 pages kind of folded up? How is it set up,
It's a
the brochure?
four fold into like a envelope type size. It folds out to 11 by, I'd say 11 by 8.
Okay. I think just checking with the library to see if they've got some empty slots in their display rack. And it looks pretty colorful, so it should attract people's notice when they walk up there.
Sure, I'll reach out to Celeste.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Has there ever been any consideration? I know the city has a website where there's some information there and it's called Tree City, and you can post some of these things to it so that there's another way for people to learn about Urbana being Tree City and what's in the works. I mean, I don't know how feasible that is, but I think that that would be a useful venue because so many people use computers and you're only going to reach a certain amount of people putting it at the library. I mean, I think we should try to do a double duty on it. What do the rest of you think?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. I've had several people reach out saying they couldn't find this, that, and the other on the site. I don't think the site has been looked at for some time. So it might be worth kind of a review of what is on that Tree City site and what we could update and or add to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I was just about to ask a similar question about whether it would be feasible to put the benefits pamphlet online or the information there, because that is the way most people get their information is from the web. And the library is great, but the library has also been closed a lot because of COVID. We're hoping that goes away, but right now it's not the most convenient place to go. You can. I've been in the library since it's reopened, but it's still kind of restricted.
They've got reduced hours, Stuart, but they're still open till 7, and they do encourage you to be in and out in under an hour. But you're right, they don't have. It's very restricted computer use, and there's not a lot of tables and
Right.
seats that are open right now.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I would remind everyone that this is the group, though, of people who are the ones that are underserved with computers as well. So I emphasize that the reason this event or this topic came up is that we wanted to educate the people who we thought would not care for their trees or know why it was important
Right.
that we put trees in their neighborhood. So the main thrust should be getting those paper pamphlets into the hands of those people in our deserts.
Well, no,
Can
I
they
have no.
be mailed then? Can they be mailed to people that way?
Or maybe get in touch with that woman from the homeowner association and see if she could be the deliverer so that she could be a more personal touch to it.
Good idea.
Yes, I can talk to her about that. I can put these, I mean, I could get a PDF added to our website under tree links also, and also have these mailed out, passed out by the homeowners associations, however we can do it that way also.
All right.
Yeah, I know we had talked about finding champions in some of the areas of the city, and I kind of did that up in Bismarck, when there were some homeowner associations that were showing an interest in trees and getting trees planted. I made sure that those contacts had a healthy supply of brochures so they could hand out to their neighbors, because they're going to know their neighbors better than we are. They're going to have a more connection with them, more of a rapport, and they're going to know who's going to be serious about planting trees or caring for trees. So I know we keep talking about finding champions to do some of this in real life, and work and other stuff gets in the way of doing that. But the more we could rely on the citizens of the community to help, that would be awesome.
Okay, so Kevin, I think you have a good reading from the members, and we'll expect you to follow through on those suggestions.
Okay.
Any other comments? Let's move on then to the next item on the agenda. This is 4B. Jacob Torres, who was a university student, resigned from our commission, and there has been an opening for a long time. What's the status of that, Kevin?
The mayor's still waiting for appointments from the mayor. I think she kind of slipped off her table, but I can re-bring that up to her and see if she can get somebody to fill it.
We didn't have it. Did we have anyone to suggest?
I have nobody that's approached me or asked about it. I'm not knowing everybody in the community and just trying to, I would take open for any suggestions.
Well, we had the contact from the Savannah Greens Homeowners Association. Maybe a suggestion would be, Kevin, when you get some of the homeowners contacting you about some of these things, maybe that might be a great opportunity to say, hey, we do have a tree commission and currently we have a position open. Would you be interested in serving? And then we are able to get some membership from that underserved communities and those tree deserts and the more education they get about the trees, then they could go out to their neighborhoods and help spread the word.
Good idea. Yep.
I know someone down the block 2 streets from us that's a longtime resident here in Urbana, and if you want, I could knock on the door and say, are you interested in possibly joining the tree commission? Because they're very active on lots of different levels in the community, and this might be something that they would respond to, if that's all right.
I don't have an issue with. I think they would have to go through the mayor's office to get sign up.
Oh, well, I could tell them that. That would be
Yeah.
fine.
Yep.
All right. So we'd like, I guess, some movement on that to get that position filled, Kevin.
Mhm.
All right. Moving to new business. Shelby, do you have the dates we're expecting to meet the remainder of the year? If not, I do. It's
I think Amanda sent me something. She should still be attending going forward. I don't know if that matters or not, but
anyway, there
I
are,
don't.
if you can set aside June 2nd, September 1st, and December 1st. Those must be the first Wednesday of the month.
Okay.
Can we have do those need to have a formal approval? I guess maybe they do. May I have a motion that we meet on those dates for the remainder of the year, and that we meet by Zoom if not able to be present physically? We'll leave that judgment up to Kevin. So can I have
I'll make that motion.
who's that? Mike?
Michael, yes.
Michael
I'll second. That was Jackson.
Jackson seconding. Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
I
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on.
Kevin, did you need a Zoom?
Yeah, you need a roll call on that.
yeah, we'll do a roll.
Okay,
All right.
You didn't see me raise my hand?
Carol,
approve.
Stuart Berlacher,
I approve.
Bridget McGill,
Approve.
Jackson Bird,
Approve.
Michael Stevenson.
Approve.
Okay, that motion carries.
Okay. Next, we'll move to 5B, the 2021 contract removals that I think have already been accomplished. But if you want to give us an update, Kevin?
The contractor started late January, got through about half of them. Then kind of the cold weather hits, and he wasn't just returned this week. So I think all the trees are down. They still have the stumps to remove on probably half of them. But for the most part, they're pretty well done.
And what is the price on that? You didn't have a amount, but that
Yeah, I
is,
want to say it was like 42,000. We had two contractors bid. One was Homer Tree Service out of Lockport. Theirs was like 42,000 for removal and stumps. And then it was Rice Tree Service. I believe he came in, it was like 53 or 56,000.
and how many trees did that cover?
It covered everything on the list that I sent you.
So maybe 20 trees or something?
I think I counted 23.
Yeah, okay. So about 2,000, about 2,000 a tree.
Yeah.
I can tell you that one was done adjacent to my house and also on the adjoining street, and this was really a slick operation. Boy, I was really impressed with this crew. So put that in your information. When you choose people in the future, I would recommend them.
Yeah,
There was a tree removed on High Street, and I couldn't believe how fast it got taken down. It was remarkable.
Yeah.
It was like they pulled up and they were gone in maybe 15 minutes. It was a big
Wow.
job. It was a big
Wow.
tree.
No, they were really a slick operation. They had a big enough crew and they were each really good at what they were doing. And then the tree stump was equally as efficient.
Hmm.
They really did a good job.
I had to follow up on some of their stumps. They weren't quite going deep enough as the specs met, but I'm in the process of working with them to get
Uh-huh.
them redone.
Uh-huh,
Because a lot of these sites are replant sites, so we want to make sure we get as much
yeah,
of the root out so they don't mold.
yeah.
How far down do they have to go, Kevin?
The bid specs out 16 inches unless utilities are a conflict.
Okay.
Okay, anything more on the removals? Let's go on to the replanting then, the spring 2021 planting list.
I got you the spreadsheet. I hope you all got it. It's all the addresses of the species. The homeowners picked, I picked. Everything I picked was native. There are some that residents requested are non-native, but they're co-op trees, most of them.
And
I did want to point out that Stone Creek has jumped in on the desert area, and they picked up 29 co-op trees throughout the Stone Creek. And then we got a total, I think, 95 or 100 is what I'm ordering. So there'd be some more added to this. But these are the definite sites for sure.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of Stone Creek Boulevard or Stone Creel Boulevard. I don't know if that's different than Stone Creek Boulevard.
Yeah, it's Stone Creek, it should be.
It's Creek. Oh, there's down. Oh, yeah, there's down. There's just a typo. From lines 80 to 86.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
I did have just a couple of minor questions about the nativeness of things. line 6 is a tree lilac, and it does not say it was approved or requested by the resident. I didn't know why that got on.
I believe the resident, yeah, it's probably another, this is a smaller spreadsheet than what's, is, I got further notes out on a larger spreadsheet. They had a tree lilac requested last year. This is their second planting.
So it might have been a request. Number 19 is a London plane tree, and I thought we were going to go with a native basswood. Is this, do I have the right tree?
This one kind of fits into the landscape that's already there. There's sycamores along Washington there. I picked that to kind of go along with the tree scheme that was there. That one can be switched if you'd like for it to.
Number 59 is a fringe tree. That's certainly not native.
White fringe?
Fringe tree on number 59 on Highlands Drive.
Well, Carol?
Yeah,
Oh, well, you know, there is a native one, but it's native to the southeastern United States. But it isn't clear from white fringe tree whether it's the Chinese, the Asian one, or the
Right.
native.
well, either way, I think it's not in our zone. It's not a native tree, native to Illinois.
I have seen someone walking around the neighborhood doing my COVID walks in my neighborhood. Where did I see some in the front yard that somebody has planted as a bush? I think it's the native one. It seemed to be living okay on like Vermont or someplace there, but it's a small tree.
Well, those are minor little blurps that I noticed. A more bigger question that I have is that almost, maybe 90% of these are hybrid or highly bred derivatives of the native species and not native species. And I know that this is what all the horticultural people would have at their disposal. Again, it's a question of finding a really native species. But for example, early glow Ohio buckeye is not the Ohio buckeye I work on in the woods. It's some derivative of that. And this means that its genetic makeup has really been compromised and changed from what the native was. And while you might get some desirable traits from that, from a horticultural viewpoint, you lose the traits that all the organisms that depend on that tree have evolved with. And so my question is, can we move even further toward real natives and not horticultural derived natives?
I could go that direction. It kind of limits to what nurseries we can pick from. That's kind of limits our nursery selection.
Yeah. Carol?
Yeah.
In it, I should point out, just to be a completist here, in at least one case there's no option other than the hybrid. That's the elms. There's the few elms listed there. I assume those are resistant to Dutch elm disease, hybrids with one of the Asian species.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You can't really plant pure American elm.
Right.
I would agree with that compromise, but it just ires me to hear about rising fire hornbeam,
Yeah.
boulevard, linden, forest, night, oak,
Oh, you want to know my?
hop hornbeam, stellar pink dogwood, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Can I mention my favorite?
I
off
just
the
want to see the native species in this list.
Like Skinny Latte Kentucky Coffee Tree. It's kind of a funny name, but it's not going to be our native coffee tree. It's going to be some selected variety, as you say.
And some of these fit into the area that are being planted. Like the Skinny Latte was in a tight, narrow boulevard where you don't have room for the full native canopy to get out.
So the skinny means something
Yeah.
in terms of the way the tree looks. Okay.
I don't get the full width canopy that the regular coffee tree gets.
Ah,
Likewise, that might be true of the columnar tulip tree.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
And trying to stay as much close to native as I can with tight boulevards. That's kind of where if I can come across these type of
right.
hybrid trees, native trees, that's where I try to use them as much as possible.
I must say I was very happy to see several chinkapin oaks listed there. Where did you find those?
It's a native place out of up around Monee, Illinois.
Okay,
Possibility Place.
that's great.
Of course, the operative word there is up rather
Yeah.
than down.
Yeah.
Well, I guess all I can do is say I really encourage you to continue to try to find a better source of native trees. The search is never ending, I think, is what
Yeah.
it amounts to.
Yeah.
And I think if you could reach out perhaps to some of your fellow arborists around the state, maybe you could find out where they're having any luck with this. And not do it all on your own. Are there any other
Could,
comments?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Kevin got the brochures from the Society of Arboriculture. Do they have any sort of networking on tree sources?
That's a good question. I could put an email in and find out. Probably to the IAA, the Illinois Arborist Association.
Just any association that covers a big geographical area that might have some sources for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin, I think, I think the Illinois Association, the Illinois Association, they're a subchapter, local chapter of the ISA. So yeah, the Illinois Association probably would be the starting point.
Okay.
Because I'm sure if you call the ISA, that's going to refer you to your local state chapter.
Yeah. Which the IAA might refer me to northern Chicago type nurseries also. So
Anything more on spring plantings? All right, let's move on to 5D, which is because we were not meeting, I thought at one point it would be good for Kevin to give us kind of a summary report of the year. And so in December, he sent us a summary of what he has done, which he has sent to everyone, not with this immediate round, but in December he sent to us. I asked some questions to which he responded. Does anybody have any questions about that particular summary report? I had a couple of questions. It just remind me what the co-op program is. This where the resident actually pays for the tree to be planted?
yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And
It gives them choice of tree too. So
yeah, right. And that's where I've gotten some questions that people couldn't find readily on the website. They wondered what was in the range of possibility of they could choose from. Another question I had, and an area of concern, was you reported on the pruning and maintenance, and you were on group number 9, and you hope to move to group number 1. And I asked how many such divisions there are, because the last time this current pruning is taking place was done 20 some years ago. So what can be done to improve our scheduling of pruning and maintenance?
Really need a bigger crews. We have a crew of 2 arbor techs, seasonal. Then we have just finally got a full-time arbor maintenance guy, maintenance ground worker to help the arbor techs. We're just so short-staffed on our maintenance. It's going from, we
is it that-
basically get a prune 6 months out of the year. By the time we plant trees, remove stumps, and then including snow removal help, our time is, we don't get a full year of actual pruning.
I wonder, is it that we don't have enough people, or there are too many openings?
We don't have enough people we don't have enough staff positions.
Right. Have you made any kind of request to the mayor for getting more staff?
Yeah, we did. I actually got, I got 2 part-time positions bumped into full-time. One went to landscape, one came to forestry. We just got that approved. That was last year. So it's been about 1 year since then. I've been talking to Tim Cowan, our interim public works director, and he's on the same side as I am, is pushing for additional help, additional staff members, additional arbor techs, so we can get caught up on our backlog of pruning. Try to get it down to a 7-8 year cycle instead of the 20 we're on, which I believe that one area got skipped over because it was some younger trees, and we had some larger areas with larger trees that needed more attention.
Yeah, Kevin, at one time, when I was up in Bismarck, I obtained some information from the Society of Municipal Arborists. They had done a survey, nationwide survey, and came up with some calculations on how long it took to prune a small tree, medium-sized tree, and a large tree. They had it all broken down by a pruning class and everything. And at one time, I had given a presentation to Bismarck City Commission on that, and with the staff that I had and the number of trees that we had, we were like on a 12-year rotation, just with the staffing and the number of trees. And the City Commission was pretty amazed at, with those numbers. Didn't help with my budgeting any, but it did shine a light on the fact that limited staff could only do so much. And when you start throwing in some of these wind events like we had, and hailstorms and F1 tornadoes, it seemed like every time we had a storm event, put us behind even, like one storm event would put us behind 3 months. So, that also helps in the factor of the long duration in some of these pruning cycles. So I would say, if you could find as much information as possible that the ISA or the Society of Municipal Arborists has out there, and kind of show what it takes to, one person could do in a day, that might be a helpful tool to have in your toolbox there, and in presenting to your commission and the budget people.
Okay.
The mayor ran on a program of improved infrastructure, and you could say that the trees are part of the infrastructure of the city, and maybe they should be a part of the infrastructure budget considerations. Yeah,
we just went through an exercise with, like I said, with Tim Cowan, our interim director. Before, trees weren't really part of the infrastructure, the capital improvement plan. I kind of ran through it with him, what the appraised value of all our canopy is and how many trees we have. And we were at like $85 million asset was our canopy. And I kind of got him convinced, there is a capital improvement funding could go towards some of that, towards our trees for infrastructure, basically. So that's hopefully in the works and kind of get on our side. And
I think that you need to continue to beat the drum. They need to just continue to hear that you are understaffed and our tree community is not doing well because of it.
yeah, I set a goal, the crew, we set a goal for trying to do 1,200 trees a year. And that would get us, if we get pruned 1,200 trees a year, that'd get us down to around 10-year cycle.
10-year?
It would get us down to around 10-year cycle, yeah. If we can do 1,200 trees a year pruned.
I'm still not hearing what the cycle is, 10 or 15?
10.
10, yeah. That seems more realistic, yeah.
And Kevin, some of those unconventional partners, when I was with the city of Bismarck, I worked with our stormwater department, and we were doing studies on how much rainwater was going into the stormwater system in streets that were treed versus streets that were, non-treed streets. And the amount of, the gallons of water that were going into those untreed streets were kind of staggering. And, it shines a light on the trees as an infrastructure. One of my big kicks as city forester was to get away from trees as being a nicety versus trees being a necessity. And by focusing on the value, so many people, want to talk about how beautiful the fall color is, but I wanted to focus more on what the trees were providing in reducing stormwater runoff, extending the life of streets. There are some studies out there, and I believe some of those studies came from the University of Illinois on tree-lined streets help prolong the life of our our street surfaces. So again, trying to find those non-traditional tree people to be some of your champions and, partner or talk to them. I'm sure some of those folks are right there in your building and, maybe over coffee, just kind of talk to them about, hey, what's the potential for us to kind of do something together?
Yeah, you can point out the benefits in the summer. Anybody who walks down a street that has a tree canopy versus one that doesn't can recognize a 20-degree difference in temperature in the middle of the summer. So,
Yeah, amen. I just had a comment, Kevin, about the MCOR project. I was pleased with your initiative in replacing the non-natives with native species, and that seems to have worked out well. I just wanted to have you confirm with the landscaping outfit that they indeed are responsible for watering this spring and summer.
Yeah, I'll double check with that. There's actually a couple of trees that I want to have them remove, and they put them too close to a light pole, or Tim's working on that right now. They kind of got a head start on me. They were planting before I knew it. And by the time I got there, they were just throwing trees in spots that really they should have moved it away from fire hydrant more, so there's a couple of them are going to be removed and replanted.
Right. Anything more on past history of the year? Let's move on to a future project that's going to take place between Lincoln, Oregon, and California, where they're pulling down multiple structures and putting up a big apartment complex. And it involves tree removal as well as saving some of the trees. And Kevin's been consulting with the people, the company that's in charge of that development project. Kevin?
Yeah, E and F actually kind of should go together on the agenda. Trying to think of the lady, I got an email from somebody from the planning commission, was concerned with some of the tree removal and what our tree replacement policy was. We really don't have no required tree replacement policy, so that's kind of what this PUD project ties in with the replacement policy, tree replacement policy, as to how much canopy is coming out compared to how many trees should be replanted. There's a very large 36-inch spruce there at the corner of Lincoln and California, kind of a focal point. There's a large magnolia, 48-inch magnolia back in behind the apartments now that will be coming down. If we lose that canopy, the replacement trees don't really, you'll never get the canopy that exists now with the replacement trees that are going in. So I was questioned as to, should we develop a replacement tree policy for canopy per diameter, for replacement? That's the question. That's why I put it on here for discussion as to what you wanted to look at or how you wanted to approach that.
Well, I went by the site several times with the drawings, and remarkably, they're not compromising very many trees except for that one really big magnolia. And I don't think short of a very major redesign, we can save that one.
No.
But they're saving a lot of the peripheral street side trees, and even quite a number in the interior of the block as well. The ones they're taking down are things like locusts and things like that. So I thought by and large it wasn't as disastrous as you might think it would be. The woman from the Planning Commission emailed me as well with her concern about that magnolia, and suggested that we needed to have in place a replacement policy. In reading the suggested literature that she sent from all those cities in California, the one thing I was interested in that I didn't quite understand the rationale for was the number of replacements had to be equal to the replacement of the former tree's canopy. And if it was a very big tree, you just didn't replace it with one new planting. You replaced it with something proportional to the size of the canopy. So some of them required, and it depended upon in part the size of the gallons in the tree root mass, but also the number of such buckets. And so I was curious how they could rationale, they needed in some cases four replacements for one big tree. And we only do a 1-on-1 ratio, right?
I'm not sure if we really actually have a policy that's on private property. I couldn't find anything.
Oh, no, I don't think we have any policy on private, but in terms of public.
Yeah, yes.
A public, it's a 1-on-1.
Yes.
Yeah. So the real question is for the commission is, do we think that we need to develop a tree replacement policy? And if we say yes to that, who's going to be responsible for developing it? Are we as a committee, or a subset of us from the committee, or?
You're talking about replacement on private property?
No, I don't think we want to get into that area. That's my
Thank you.
question.
Yeah.
I think we want only for what's taking place in the city.
Well, if the goal is, if someone takes down a tree that is covering an area of 60 feet in diameter and they propose planting a different species, maybe you need two to get the same coverage, that would seem to be fairly easy to define. but could they do it with native trees, and could they do it with the new configuration of the lot and things like that? I don't know.
Well, I was wondering if there could be something, I mean, because there has to be some sort of city approval for these units that are going up, that part of the contract stipulates that if trees are taken down, there has to be some sort of replacement of trees that is on them to do it rather than us trying to scrape up funds to replace trees that have been removed.
You know, is there any such policy that you know of, Kevin?
The only policy I know of is the zoning commission has, or the zoning board has, so many trees per parking spot, or you got so many parking spots per tree for parking lot plantings. Some of this did come into play for the zoning approval. But for on private property, we don't have any policies for, which I agree, I don't think we should, because get into that, it could be a whole new rascal.
So it's kind of a gray area, because if we don't want to get into telling the private homeowner what they can have to do we want to get into what happens to development, urban development on a city, and what they do or approve?
Yeah, we can request, we definitely request planting in our right of way and native trees in our right of way, and give them a specific DVH or specific location, how many locations they have, and we can definitely do that. We'll tell you, this company has added in some plantings in our right of way, so that definitely benefits us.
Now, is this a new apartment complex that's going up? I'm not familiar with what's going on at this corner.
Yeah, they're taking down 5 or 6 apartment houses and putting up a 2-story apartment complex.
Will it go all the way from California to Oregon? Will it cover the entire block?
Yes.
It does on the Lincoln side. It does not on the Busey side, because the Europa house is there, and that's going to already be present. So other than that southeast corner, it is the entire block.
Really? Wow. That's more extensive than I thought it was.
Yeah.
They have probably, I've walked the area with them, and they probably have 20 trees on the whole area, and they're removing 5 and replacing, putting in back 6 trees.
How many units of apartments will they have?
That I'm not sure. There's probably 10 or 12 buildings, maybe.
Good grief.
Kevin, I'll make a call to a couple of my buddies up in Bismarck, but we had a landscape ordinance that whenever there was new development, and it didn't matter if it was apartments or businesses or what, but we had a landscape ordinance where we did require that the new apartment or business put in landscaping on private property, one to separate the residential areas from those businesses, and then specifically if they had parking lots, if they had a X number of vehicles, they had to have X number of plants and shrubs to cut down on the headlight pollution, keep headlight pollution from shining into the street and in neighboring homes and things like that. And we had some ratios on number of parking spots for per number of shrubs or whatnot. But if you're interested in that, I can make a call to some of my buddies that are up in Bismarck and ask if they could send me that landscape ordinance, and then I could get that on to you. My forestry division, when I was city forester, we were the enforcers of that ordinance. So we were the ones out there checking and making sure the businesses were planting things properly and in accordance to the landscape ordinance. It took a lot of fighting to get it, but we ended up winning the battle, and a lot of the developers didn't like us, but it did help the city look more attractive, and it did cut down on headlight pollution.
Mm-hmm.
We do have, the community development does have a ordinance like that. And they're the ones that kind of spearhead that and oversee it and pass along to me new projects that I approve. Same situation you're talking about.
Okay.
But I think what the planning commission is looking at is if they remove a large tree, should we have a replacement policy for that large tree? Which I'm not. That's what my question is do we want to get involved in that?
Well, I don't see why not. I mean, if people are putting in new housing in Urbana, I would think that requiring them to do something about a tree they remove is legitimate. I can't see what the problem is. I mean, they're already piling in a whole lot of money doing what they're doing, and what would trees cost if we asked them to just have that be part of the requirement? Someone approves those things happening. There should be some sort of ordinance that requires planting of trees. I've been horrified by the things that are now going up and wondering how many houses are being taken down, and what the policy is for parking or landscaping. I'm not aware of what those things are, and if you could point me in a direction where I could learn, I'd be willing to follow up on that. But I think if they're taking down trees that are city trees or on property, there should be something that requires them to do some sort of replacement.
I wonder, Kevin, I'm not sure I quite understood what you have done or are required to do, but could you maybe write up a summary of what the current position is in terms of policy and just in terms of practice, what you do, using this project perhaps as an example, so that we're all on the same wavelength in terms of where our starting point is?
Yeah, I can send you all the current community development ordinance that they call for planting and landscaping and all that. I can send that to you and review it.
Yeah.
It'd be a good starting point if we want to add to it or.
Yeah, that would be a good item for discussion at the next meeting. I think if we can get all on the same wavelength and understanding of what the current situation is.
Okay, I'll email you guys all the ordinance.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, anything more about tree replacement policy for new development? Then we want to welcome Scott Tess, who is here to join us. Glad you could be with us, Scott.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. I've been enjoying the conversation. I'm Scott Tess. I'm the Sustainability and Resilience Officer for the City of Urbana. And Kevin and I have been working on this grant-funded study from the Lunken Foundation, looking at a number of different things with our urban forest, our tree inventory. And we just started getting deliverables from the vendor Friday and some more Monday,
Good.
and I'm still digesting it all. And so I want to just share briefly with you, and maybe tell me how long you want me to spend on this, because I could do, 2 minutes and 20 minutes easily.
I don't think anybody's familiar with your project at all, except for me. So I think we need probably to be educated. This initiative that came independent of our interests very much parallels our interest in tree deserts. So we've been very supportive of Scott's efforts and success thus far in this regard. So I think the board needs to be educated, not a 20-minute, but
Okay. It's good to have bounds. It's good to have bounds. Okay, so we got a small grant to study the distribution of our street trees in relationship to demographics, principally income and race. And so we wanted to see if there's any correlations between vacant tree sites where we're not getting trees planted and income and race, and if those correlations were, had any statistical significance. When I started talking to Davey, who runs the Tree Keeper program, the Tree Keeper software, it occurred to me that when they're already getting into this data, there's other things that they can do that they do regularly for other cities that we might as well pay them to do now. So we also looked at Canopy, and we also looked at Urban Heat. There's a satellite that produces data that they utilized for Urban Heat. And we also clipped we used a shading model. So to describe a difference between canopy and shading, we used a shading model to actually show where sunlight was actually getting through and not getting through. Shade on the right of way is what we're interested in. So the difference between canopy and shading: canopy is more like a single snapshot looking from the satellite down to the ground, and if there's leaves, and it's done during the season when there's leaves, if there's leaves, then that's canopy. Whereas the shading was taken at 2 different times of the year and looking at an angle of where the canopy was actually casting shade. So canopy is the leaves, shading is the sunlight or absence thereof on the ground. So I'm going to share screen. I'm just going to show you a few things. It's a little raw, but I'll walk you through some of what we're finding. I'm going to show you Tree Keeper because I haven't finished downloading the source GIS files, which will allow us to do even more analysis. But I'm just going to show you what's on the internal Tree Keeper that Kevin and I can access. So hold tight. So you all see Tree Keeper?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. So this is me logged into the backside of what Kevin and I can see. It looks very similar to the public facing, but it has a few more options. So clearly this is Urbana. You see the outline of Urbana. And I'm going to turn on for a second. These are our planted street tree sites.
These are the city trees, right?
Correct. All the trees between the sidewalk and the right of way. These are the vacant street tree sites. Now at this zoomed out scale, you can't really tell much, right? Moving down our layer list here. Oh, you know what, before I turn that on, it's still zoomed out too far. Let me show you one other thing, and it'll take a little explanation. This is called CDTA, Community Development Target Areas. And the gray is not CDTA, the yellow is our CDTA. These are areas that at some point in the not so distant past, the city identified as low income from demographics. They didn't strictly take census data, because census data shows these high student population areas as low income simply because they're students and they're not working, but they're not low income in the way that we're concerned about. So they took census data and sort of tailored it to what we locally know about our situation and came up with these areas. So these are low income areas. And I think they still have this wrong. Yeah, this is wrong. This is the same thing. I asked them this morning to fix this. There's also a statewide environmental justice determination, which actually is a balance of income and race. So we've got these as sort of overlays to think about, where we want to be, focusing our efforts in terms of, people's access. So I'm going to zoom in here just so you can get a little bit better view when I turn on some of these other layers. So this is King Park, Dr. King School area. I'm going to turn this, see, this is in the CDTA. Now, going back up to tree canopy. There. This is a model of all tree canopy, and you can see these little polygons. Probably they should be colored in, so it's a little easier to see, or not polygons, free-form shapes are showing where there's canopy. So this is private property trees creating canopy as well as our street trees. What's more interesting, I think this one isn't quite right. Yeah, that one's not quite right, with a little work to do with the vendor. What's more interesting is we get into this shading, and we've clipped it to just the right of way because we're really concerned about, what we can control, which is street trees in the right of way. And I asked them this morning to give me a legend for this color ramp for what the different colors mean. And I hope they get back to me, but I think we can interpret it. I think what we're seeing here is where there's this sort of grayish color, there's zero shading. And then as you move towards the, I'm not sure, green or red, you have more shading. It's a little bit hard to tell with the color selection they've chosen. We got to work some of this out with the vendor. But you can see the difference between these two intersections, Romine and Dublin versus Matthews and Dublin. One of them is quite shaded. That's a comfortable intersection to be walking around. The other one is going to be quite hot during the summer. And so this is another layer of information for Kevin to use when he's selecting out of our 4,000 vacant tree sites. And I can turn those on and you can see a little more what we've got. So now you can see the vacant tree sites over there. So this is just more information for Kevin to maximize the impact of our limited tree planting abilities. Now I mentioned that we looked at these vacant tree sites and in terms of their incidence in low income areas or not, or in high racial minority neighborhoods or not. That's not really shown on this map, but I have another view. They actually just did the math here. Are you all seeing a spreadsheet?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So this is a kind of an R-squared analysis. Maybe some of you researchers are familiar with that. But essentially R-squared measures the strength of correlation between two features. So in this case, minority population versus canopy. And this is often represented as a decimal place and sometimes a percentage. As a percentage, this would be 0.04%. That is very, very low correlation. We move over to correlation between income and canopy goes up. There's a lot more correlation between where we have vacant tree sites and low income. So that's 4%. And then surface temperature versus canopy, 2%, which is a little strange. You would think where we don't have tree canopy, we would also have very high surface temperatures. A little strange. Also, I expected that race and income was going to be more highly associated with limited canopy than 0.04 and 4%. Now, there are reasons why this maybe didn't turn out the way I expected. For instance, you all were talking about Stone Creek, a bunch of lots. I'm not sure, that they're probably, falling into a census block with high income, and yet they don't have any street trees. So that could kind of skew the analysis. With more money, we could go in and tinker with our local knowledge and maybe get a more accurate picture. But right now, these are pretty low correlations, which in a certain sense is good. We don't want negative things to be highly correlated with low income or high racial minority. But at the same time, we also want a true and accurate picture of what is really going on the ground. So in that sense, it's because the results are less than what I expected, they're a little bit confounding. What we can tell, though, if we take these as not absolute numbers, but rather trends, we can see a trend that limited canopy is more highly related to income than it is race.
Scott,
So
can you bring in the age of the neighborhood or the age of the house?
I don't know that we have data sets like that.
Okay.
So there's more to do. We also brought in the MTD's bus stop point map, and so in GIS, once we get this into GIS and we can start playing with it, we can actually select trees that are within a proximity of bus stops. So then we can say, okay, we want to plant near bus stops so that people waiting for the bus can have a canopy in the summer. And that's what I really love about that is, may not be successful. We can go to MTD and say, wouldn't it be great if you could, fund tree shading for your bus stops, and maybe they'll fund some tree planting. So there's a few more things we can do, and there's more development, but we have the raw data and analysis done. And I think maybe this might lead into some further discussion, but we got more to do. I'll pause there.
That's very interesting, Tim, Scott. That's really what we all were imagining someone would do, and you were actually the one that was the driver that made it happen. So I congratulate you for that effort. My memory is that you had targeted 25,000 of your grant to plant about 50 trees. Is that still in the works, and on what basis are you going to choose them?
Correct. So, the notion in the grant was we're going to learn some things about, where, whether race or income or just geography is experiencing higher vacancy of street tree sites. And then whatever we learn from the study, that's where we'll target these additional above and beyond 50 tree plantings. We're going to do them as contract plantings so that the crew can keep, doing what they normally do. So, we have to digest this, work with the data a little bit further, but actually I take some feedback from you all, just based on the snapshot that I've shown. What is this data? What story is it telling us about what we should be doing?
Yeah, maybe we're shooting for this fall planting, if I remember right, Scott, right?
Correct.
Is there any data being collected about what variety of trees there are in these areas?
We didn't analyze that. It's probably possible, but I think it's probably going to be pretty evenly, diverse in terms of tree species across space.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that through selected fields. We can select silver maples and then add the layers of surface temperature and canopy cover, and it'll pick out the silver maples cover. Just a little more field work on the inventory.
Yeah, in terms of looking at this from like at a data set, when like Kevin spends a lot of time on with TreeKeeper, there's some robust abilities to actually start selecting, filtering, zeroing in on certain features. So I think, and Kevin, correct me if you're wrong, I think you'd have the ability to say, all right, show me vacant tree sites that have above average surface temperature, are in the CDTA or in the EJ, and are near a bus stop. I think you could do all of that. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think so. I
That
really
was-
had a chance to mess with a whole lot, but I've been kind of messing around in there.
So once you layer on all those filters, instead of going 4,000 vacant tree sites, where do I begin? I don't know. Maybe at that point you're looking at 100. I'm not sure. We'll have to play with that.
Any more questions of Scott? Feedback you want to give him? What will your follow-up be to us, Scott? And to Kevin? What do you expect? How do you expect to interact with us?
So, we're gonna work with this information a little bit further, and I don't know. You probably won't. We may want to make some decisions before you all meet again. So maybe we'll do some email communications. But I think we got to learn a little bit more about what the data is telling us, and then propose, some selection criteria. Maybe, we want to take these 50 trees and we want to plant them in this way, and that results in, these 50 vacant tree sites, and we can probably plot that and put it on a map. Stuart, you were going to say something?
No, I think Carol pretty much covered my question. I was hoping just to say I would be very interested in hearing more about this as you develop this.
Yeah.
At our September 1st meeting, we probably have the sites picked and species picked, and be working on the contract at that point. So maybe our September meeting, we can invite Scott back to discuss where we're at with it.
Yeah, I was hoping that I was going to get some actual still images that would have done all the analysis and give me a picture, but I think probably it's going to be on us to do that with some GIS. And so I do want to create some still images that will kind of walk people through a story and share that somehow, whether it's a video or a presentation, a PowerPoint, I'm not sure. But I do want to, put out some sort of output that says, here's the story that we learned and here's what we're going to do about it.
I don't think we want to wait until September. But are we talking about fall plantings with these 50 trees?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think we'd
So
be able to.
Maybe you can give us an update in June. When do you have to order the fall trees?
It'd be right around September.
Yeah, so maybe we could have an update on June, and then that would give you time to alter anything based on any kind of input we have for you.
Yeah, and it would be nice to have it a little bit before the meeting.
Yeah,
Some of us have done a lot of statistical analysis, and you may already as well. I don't know your background, but I had like one suggestion on one of your graphs, which isn't worth going into now, but just,
Yeah, send me an email.
Carol and I'd be glad to.
Is my description of R squared correct? And those are pretty low correlations.
Those
So you
really,
need the p-value.
really low. You can't say those are statistically significant.
Yeah.
Right. P is going to be low. Plus, in one case, I thought the axes should be reversed and that kind of stuff. But let's not waste the whole meeting on statistics there.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Well,
Mike, you can reach me by email. Feel free to send me an email.
Okay, thanks for your input, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, Arbor Day, are we going to have an Arbor Day in April?
Yeah, we are currently working on it. We're planning on an in-person event. We're actually going to try to do a week-long scavenger hunt type Arbor Week, really. Bringing in the legacy trees, significant trees around the city, park district. We're going to try having a week-long post on the website. We've really worked out the logistics of it yet. If we got to pinpoint the tree, or if you can, somehow log it on your phone, and then come Friday during Arbor Day, everybody can get together and, maybe discuss their favorite tree, whichever, they found. It's April 30th right now is Arbor Day. Plans are for the Phillips Rec Center on Springfield Avenue, Canaan Baptist Church grade school or summer school or something's is being invited. I believe they're 3rd through 5th graders. They're having the Under the Canopy brochure translated over into Spanish so that we can distribute it into the Latin communities so they can kind of get the understanding of the benefits of trees and what type of trees are best to plant, and we're in the process of that. We are going to put out our virtual video that we did last year also to tie it in from last year. And we have our proclamation read by the mayor as of now. And we have a meeting April 1st of April is our next meeting to finalize everything. And everybody's invited to the event. I'll pass out, I'll email you all the final invitation and everything, so y'all be able to attend if you'd like.
Okay, so April 30th is something to put on your calendar, everyone. Anything else that people would like to bring up? It's the end of our formal agenda. Then I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn.
I move we adjourn. This is Michael.
Michael Stevenson first. Who's going to second?
I'll second. Stuart Burlocker. Or
Do
did
we
I
need,
take somebody
do we
else?
need a roll call on this? Kevin, I before we adjourn, I would really like to just say that I've had a very hard time understanding you. And I think if you used a computer rather than whatever system you're using, it might be preferred in the next meeting.
Okay, I'll put into IT for that request. It's kind of tough to come by.
I see. Okay.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
like it's like you're using a remote microphone and you're pretty echoey. and
Okay, yes,
disconcerting.
in this big room, so the microphone's on the ceiling.
Mm,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
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 It's unanimous. We'll see you on June the 1st, probably with another Zoom meeting. Thanks for everybody for attending.
Everybody.